What up, everybody? How you doing? This is your coach Renz. Forgive me for being 4 minutes late. I see that Tim and Raph have already talking trash about me being a few minutes late. I was looking for an image that I need, and I gotta find it, but I found it, but it won't let me download it. So, welcome to Deconstructing Christianity, where I'm your coach, Coach Renz, and tonight we're going to be talking about God's wife, Asherah, by Yahweh and his wife, Asherah, the lineage of those two and where it comes from, and demonstrating how the religion that people believe that is monotheistic actually is not, nor has it ever been, a monotheistic religion. So we're going to dive deep into that at about the 5-minute mark. What up, Tim and Wrath? How are you two guys doing? And so we're going to get into that very soon here. There's an image that I need. It wouldn't download right from my laptop. So maybe if I download it to my phone, or at least I can screenshot it to my phone at minimum. And then we'll have it. But in the meantime, in between time, if you have any comments, conversations that you guys want to start out with before I get started, we can certainly do that. Look forward to tonight's conversation. How you doing? Oh, Stephanie, how you doing? Yes, it's a great Wednesday. Great Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to everyone. Where is that one picture that I have to have? There's one image that I have to find. Oh, and there it is. Hope everybody's having a good week. Sorry. So yesterday we didn't have a live yesterday because there were some business things had to be done, taken care of. So there was no show yesterday. I hope you guys missed me. You should have. If you didn't, then I'm gonna feel some kind of way. But you should have missed me. Should have been like, oh, Coach Renz, I didn't get my download of Coach Renz on yesterday. I don't know how to live my life now. But yeah, so it didn't download, so let me screenshot it and then send it over to my phone, to my laptop. I purchased a book. So tonight, yes, we're talking about Asherah. I purchased the book of Asherah the Goddess, the Vanquished Goddess, and purchased the book of the Black Mama, the Christian, how the Vatican Church stole from the syllabus. Where Stephanie, you need to come on and be a part of this live. Like, I need to send you the link and we have some conversation. You can tell us about what you discovered in that book. You know what? Deuteronomy always got something crazy, admitting there's a creator. And there is no way. That's like, oh, we're going to talk about Zeus and his wife Hera. So that would validate that I accept Zeus? I don't think it would. Because if you would talk about these other deities, that would mean that you accept them and believe in them. That doesn't make any sense. Now, does it? You wouldn't count that as somebody believing in something. But welcome to the show, Deuteronomy and Patel. How you doing? I have to send myself these photos real quick so that I can have them on here. It didn't download the way I wanted it to. Adrienne watching from Memphis. Got some barbecue. Go to BB King's. All right, let me get these pictures. I hate that you're going to see the pictures before I actually download that one, and download that one. I thought I had these already on my laptop, but evidently I did not. So that's why I have to go search for them again to make sure that I have them before we get started here. All right, don't look at what I'm putting up here. Keep your eyeballs off. Don't look. It's going to be real quick. Don't look. Don't look. You didn't see nothing. You saw nothing. You see nothing. Nothing to look at here, people. Nothing to look at here. Nothing to look at. These are just images of walls and rocks. They have no meaning. How you doing, Macy? They have no meanings. So before we get started, let me do my thing. So before we get started, this broadcast of Coach Ren's Deconstructing Christianity is brought to you by Financially on Fire. Financially on Fire is a seminar that Coach Ren's will be conducting online on June 1st at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time Zone. The seminar is only costing you $10, but it has a value of thousands of dollars as you will learn how to manage your money, budget your money, restore your credit, build your credit, put yourself in a position for retirement, and know the ins and outs of money. The one thing that is required in order for most people to survive on this planet. But in going into your golden years, you want to be a part of this seminar. If you're unable to attend this seminar, you will at least have the link to be able to go back and review it. And as such, as even if you do attend it, you should review this seminar multiple times. In addition, at a over $100 value, you will receive Financial Alchemy, Credit Restoration and Credit Health DIY Guide. This is a pamphlet that Coach Renz has put together over many years and has some of the most current information on how to restore your credit. So please join us for Financially on Fire with Coach Renz. You will find the description of this seminar as well as the link to be able to sign up today in the description of the video. So I look forward to seeing you all there at Financially on Fire with Coach Renz. We're going to learn how to stop, drop, and roll ourselves into economic wealth. That's the commercial. All right. Everybody got that? This Sunday. Wait a minute. How was that, Stephanie? Voiceover by Stephanie. How was that? Graph your signal strand. I need to know if Stephanie approves of that. If she approves of that one. There was no script either. That was just all winging it. I see my wife approved it with the laughter. Henry Mars, welcome to the show, sir. All right. Stephanie approved it. Got a voiceover professional approved it. James said it was okay. I got a B+ from James. I got a B+ from James. I got a B+. All right, I'll take the B+. So are we ready to have a conversation about Asherah? Definitely, if you want to come on here and have a conversation about her, let me go ahead and put the link. And right now, it's only about talking about the subject matter that we're discussing right now. But the link will be in the stream. All right, now. Oh, let me put it where everybody can see everybody's comments. I found out the more I use it, the better that they will start. More people use it, the better they'll do it. Oh, you ain't hear it, Kevin? You're going to hear it again before I end it. At the 1 hour mark, commercial break. So who here has heard of Asherah? Who has heard of Asherah? Who's ever heard of God's wife? And the God of the Bible actually has a wife. So it was too high pitched. Right? Tim's heard of Asherah. Henry Mars heard of Asherah. We know that Stephanie's heard of Asherah. She mentioned that she read a book about her. Heard very little of her. Macy said that she has heard about Asherah. Siobhan, I hope I'm saying it right. Siobhan said vaguely. Wrath haven't. Okay then. So it seems that a significant number of you guys have actually heard of Asherah, or at least a little bit about Asherah. I have about 4 years ago, and I thought that Inanna was Asherah too. Okay. So what we're going to see in discussing this about Asherah is we're going to see that there is some, the word just escaped me of what you use intelligently to describe it. Synchronicity. That there is syncretism that is involved in the goddess of Asherah. So, in order to break this down, we have to first go back and tell our story of how Israelites actually came into being. As many of you guys have heard this being said by me on multiple occasions, so I will give you a brief rendition of how Israelites came into being. So we first start with we're going to do the real version and then the biblical version of how the Israelites came to be. There is some levels of overlap that is involved. So when we read the story, if you read the story of the Bible, then you know that Abraham, who is pretty much the father of this religion, hence why it's called the Abrahamic religions, began his story in the city of Ur. The city of Ur is located at the Persian Gulf, near the Persian Gulf, where the Euphrates and the Tigris rivers seem to come more together. Now, the Sumerians most likely were a tribe of people who are not Semitic, who were actually in existence more towards where the Tigris and Euphrates would have joined together and flowed down through what is now the Persian Gulf and all the way to pretty much the Gulf of Arabia or the Indian Ocean. That is a very rocky area that I'm speaking of, where these two rivers would have emptied out into the Gulf, into that landmass, into that waterway. I actually have a map that I can bring up so that you guys will have a better idea of what I'm talking about. So when we look at this area, so where we see the point that sticks out, where it's got the kilometers, where you guys chats are coming up. Wait a minute. Nope, this is the wrong map. That's the Red Sea. I brought the wrong damn map up. Isaac, I don't know what that image is. It doesn't show me what that image is. Knowing Isaac, he's probably jumping ahead of me if he's showing an image. Because I know Isaac. So in this map, what we see is what this region and that dark green area is today the Persian Gulf. There are aspects that show that there's ancient rivers up under the Persian Gulf. So this riverway emptied out into what is the Gulf of Arabia right now, and then into the Indian Ocean. So about 15,000 years ago, y'all know the Earth was in an ice age, and it was experiencing a deep ice age in the Younger Dryas freeze. Well, when the Younger Dryas freeze ended abruptly, this entire dark green area flooded. Now, if you look right in that sharp bend, you can see somewhat of a mountain range. And on the opposite side, another somewhat of a mountain range. So what would have happened is as the sea levels rose 400 feet over the course of 6 days in most places, but since this would have been a choke point, the scientists believe, and since it was a choke point and it was mountainous, most scientists will agree that this area didn't flood as fast as flatter land masses. And over the course of the next few weeks, the water increased by 6 feet every couple of days. So the Sumerians would have been trekking their happy asses in a big, huge rush all the way up to where the Persian Gulf ends. And where the Persian Gulf ended, we have the Sumerians finally settling, having their story about this flood that happened, and then creating for themselves a city. And that city would have ended up being, I didn't mean to do that. That city ended up, one of the major cities at that time frame would have been the city of Ur, which is where the story of Abraham is supposed to have begun. Now, most people in the Bible, it talks about how Ur was a city, and it was a Chaldean city, and from the Chaldean city, Abraham was called out by this God to separate himself. And we see where the city of Ur is, but called to separate himself. And he moved up towards Syria, and then after a famine, he had to move down into Egypt. Kevin, it's spelled U-R. U-R. Letter U, letter R. So he moved into this city, separated himself from his family, took his nephew Lot with him, and he was worshiping his gods. Previously they were worshiping the gods that were the Sumerian gods. So it's most likely that in worshiping these Sumerian gods, he was accustomed to the idea of there was the male side of the deity and there was the feminine side of the deity. Much like was said by, somebody said that earlier, by Macy, that these belief systems, and it's not just the African spiritual systems, but almost every spiritual system in the world, in the more ancient you go back, there is the balance of the masculine and feminine until the patriarchy really starts kicking in and around 5,000 to 3,000 BCE. But after like 3,000 BCE, the woman's role begins to minimize. So he would have known of the Sumerian Akkadian gods since he is coming out of this Sumerian Akkadian empire, because this story is supposedly happening about 25,000 years ago is when, no, 4,500 years ago, sorry. About 4,500 years ago is when this story is supposedly happening, of Abraham ditching his family and moving. Now, there are other inklings of that, this belief continuing, even though Abraham wasn't in the story so-called participating in it, but he believed in it. And he believed that his God had a wife. Now, the question then begs is, well, who was his God? Would it have been Anu, and then the Asherah, his wife, would have been Namu? Would that have been his God? Would he have been worshiping Enki, and the wife would have been either Ninsun or what's her name? I just dropped her name just that quick. It'll come back to me. Would it have been his Enlil and his wife Ninlil? At the time frame of Abraham, it would have been the Sumerian gods that we are familiar with. Now, I know that earlier Stephanie said that it might have been Ishtar or Inanna. But we have to remember, in the Sumerian religion, Ilnana was married to Dumuzi or Tamuzi, depending upon if we're looking at the Sumerian name or the Babylonian name. So she was married to Dumuzi. So it wouldn't have been Ishtar. It would have most likely, since the worship of Yahweh becomes the worship of El, it would have been Enlil's wife. So it would have been Ninlil, would have been the wife. So it's really the worship of Asherah, if you follow that line, would be Ninlil. Now we know that Abraham's family members still worshiped these gods, because in the story of Jacob, we have the situation where Jacob is sent off by his mom to marry his cousin, and when when he leaves, he takes the gods of she takes the gods of her father. He tracks them down, and after he tracks them down, she claims that she's on her cycle and he can't search, but Rachel steals the idols of her gods, of her father's gods. So we know that Laban was still participating in this religion at that time frame. Now, all of that is just stories, right? The thing we have to look at in the biblical story is when Israelites actually first came about. Because although Yahweh, because the question then begs, how does Yahweh become their God? Well, by the time these stories are created about Abraham, the Israelites were a group of people who were Canaanites, and they moved away from the coastal area, separating themselves from the other Canaanites and calling themselves Israelites. During this time frame, which is what we're looking at, about 1300 BCE, these Israelites were under Egyptian rule. You see, the Levant in 1300s BCE was controlled by Egypt. They were vassal states of Egypt. And in this way, some may then say, oh, well, Asherah could have possibly been Isis. But that's just simply not the case, because these Canaanites who had fallen under Sumerian Akkadian rule and separated themselves from them, and though their rulership had been destroyed and they were conquered, and now the Egyptians are in charge of this area, still were maintaining their religion based on what they had learned from the Akkadians and Sumerians. So by this time frame, Enlil's name had been changed to El, and his wife, who was Ninlil, her name has now been changed to Asherah. So when the Canaanites separated, they still had this belief in this Canaanite pantheon was part of their belief system. Now, El and Asherah had two sons. Those two sons was Yahweh and Baal. So when Yahweh and Baal, and with Yahweh being the storm deity, the Israelite people who have now separated themselves around 1300 BCE, are now calling themselves worshipers of Yahweh. Yahweh was also worshipped by the Moabites at the northern portion of the northern portion of the Sinai Peninsula. And let me bring this map back up too, so you can see where the Sinai Peninsula is located, which is, we all know what that is, over there by the Red Sea. So they was in close contact. That entire area of the Levant, for the most part, the people who were under the control of the Egyptians were worshipers, were Canaanite worshipers. And so, as with any pantheon of worship, different groups of people seem to gravitate towards one patron deity. And this is why, and this was common because although you had these different Akkadian cities like Akkad and Kish and Umma and Sumer and Uruk, each one of them, although they believed in all the gods, they generally had patron gods of their city. So it's not an uncommon thing for these Israelites that when they separated themselves from the other Canaanites, that they took as their patron deity Yahweh, because Yahweh was the storm deity. When you have a bunch of nomadic animal husbandry people walking around, storms may seem to be the most powerful thing that is going on other than the sun. What brings the rain? The rain, without water, you cannot have civilization. You cannot have life without water. So when they walked away from the other Canaanites and went into the hill country, they adopted the god Yahweh. And they viewed Yahweh as the son of El and Asherah. Well, as time goes by, and we get into about the 700s BCE, and the Assyrians have now conquered all of the Levant, taken the Akkadian Empire, conquered all the way in through northern Egypt. They then are in control of all this land, and they destroy many of the temples in these other Israelite kingdoms. So the northern Israelites have developed their kingdom, the southern Israelites have developed their kingdom, and Sennacherib takes and destroys all the cities in the northern Israelite area except for Jerusalem. So after he destroys these other cities, Hezekiah starts the brain idea of, let's make all worship of this God Yahweh happen in Jerusalem. Let's center this religion. And so he goes about some changes within the religion of the Judaic religion, that Yahweh must be worshipped, but he must be worshipped in Jerusalem. So now bring all your tributes to Jerusalem. And as they continued, and as his son, and I said it on a different video earlier today, I said Jehoiakim, but Jehoiakim wasn't his son. It was, I forgot his son's name, started with a J though. But as this develops, his son goes full balls to the wall in it. And not only does he go full ball to the wall in it, this is where we start to see the merging of Yahweh and El. He begins to merge Yahweh and El, and then Asherah is still the wife of El. But he's still the wife of El. Er-Shakigel isn't God yet. Yeah, Er-Shakigel wasn't Asherah. I got my little graph here in front of me so I can cheat on that one. But no, Er-Shakigel wasn't his wife. Enlil's wife was Ninlil. So, no. And Enlil is the one who becomes El. Er-Shakigel was married to Utu, and Utu was a sun deity. Let me put my glasses on. Er-Shakigel, who was the goddess of the underworld, was married to Utu, and Utu in the Akkadian is, his name is, in the Sumerian is Ea, in the Akkadian is Utu, Shemesh. This was the sun god of the city Sipar. But Ershkigal was married to him. Now she also got down with another god, who was the great bull of heaven, Gugalalan. So yeah, Ershkigal is not Asherah. There's only one goddess in the pantheon that can fit and be Asherah, and that would be Ninlil. Now, of course, there are going to be some differences because some of these stories get told at different times by different people. And the story can change. Nergal, see, just like, and we get a lot of questions. Nergal was actually married to the moon goddess Sin, or Nana. I'm trying to catch some of y'all questions when I peek up. El was Anu, and Yahweh was in. No, El has never been Anu. Anu is El. Anu is. Oh, I see what you're saying. Thinking that El was Anu, but there are some comparisons that you can look at and see how later on in the Hebrew tradition you would match El with Anu, but that is much later on, like in the second, third century BCE. El starts to look more like Anu, but at the time frame of the 700s and the creation of Israelites, Enlil is El, because based on their understanding of the Sumerian Akkadian story, Anu was no longer the god of earth. El was the god of earth. Well, Anu had never been the god of earth. Anu was part of the god of creation and the god of, out there of, the god of creation with his wife Namu. Enlil was his son, who was the god of earth. He is the Satan of earth, which to the Sumerians meant administrator of earth. But then, yes, Yahweh, and so Yahweh is Enlil, but he becomes Enlil after they merge them together. And you're right. Sorry, I said and she somebody corrected me on something. Let me find the correction right here. Right, Sin is a male god. Sorry, Sin. So Enlil and Ninlil, his wife, had two sons, Nergal and Nana, which is Era and Sin. So my bad on the wifing. Sin marries Ningal, and Ershkigal, I said she was married to Utu. Ershkigal was married to the great bull of heaven, Gulalan. I'm gonna mess up that name. So you're right. You're right. My bad. I misspoke on that one. Right. Anu is the father of Enlil. Exactly. Right. Anu is supposed to be the king of Nibiru, but he's also the king of all the gods. Enlil is a title like Baal. It's not a name. To the Sumerian and Akkadians and the Canaanites, they are gods. They become titles later on. But to those people, these were living, breathing gods that they worshiped. So this is where we don't take a starting point that happens beforehand and say, okay, this is where I'm going to start. In order for El to just be a title, that's starting at a later date. It's like everybody else started running the 400 meters at the beginning, and then you jump in a race at the 300 meter mark. and claim that that's the name, but that's not. Those were gods compared for those people. In the biblical story, Enki does end up being the Satan, but well, in the biblical story, some people have taken Enki to be the Satan, but he's not. Um, you can look at it from that standpoint, but it doesn't really fit. There's some merging. There's this heavenly council, and the Satan for the Sumerians was the god of the earth. So that would fit into Enlil and not Enki. Now, if you go the way of some of these more esoteric readers of it, and you want to make El make it seem like the narrative is that the Israelite people have always worshipped Enlil, then you would say that Enki is the Satan. But Enki has never been the Satan. That's a renegotiation of the story in order to make it fit a narrative, so that Enlil has always been Yahweh. Always seemed to take the place of the primary God within the biblical story. What we have to realize is that they've mixed and matched these stories. They flipped them and turned them to make them fit. So with Enlil always being the god of earth, in the story of Job, Enlil would fit the Satan character, and Anu would fit the God character in the Job story. Now, when Job was written first, before the Genesis story, now in the Genesis story, is Enlil is the one that first fits the Genesis story of the creator God. In the Babylonians, that would be Marduk who fits that story, because Enlil is the one who kills the dragon, slays Tiamat in the Sumerian story, but then the Babylonians flip the story and changes it to Marduk is the one who kills Tiamat. So the difficulty is understanding from whose perspective the story is coming from. So you can imagine that these Israelites that they're pulling from the Canaanite story, you have to look at it in that 1300 BCE era. And during that era of time, El was the Canaanites worshiped El, and El was Enlil. Satan means adversary only to the Semitic languages, and the Akkadians, it would have been the adversary. But to the Sumerians, which is not a Semitic language, it meant administrator. So you got two different languages. And like I said, it's not a clean convert. You know, we talked about this before. It's not a clean convert from the Sumerian language to the Akkadian language, because you got two different ones. It's kind of like how the Greeks did not have a translation for Yeshua, so they named him Ius. So in that time frame of the 1300s, El is Enlil to them. El is married to Asherah. When they separate, they have the god Yahweh. To them, Yahweh still remains to be Enlil. So, and this is where I was going. So I'm glad that we went through all of that. El was that when they separated, Yahweh became they changed Yahweh to be El, to be in Enlil. They still was worshiping Enlil to them. Now you can make, if you was arguing, if Canaanites got into an argument, then they would have been arguing that El is the God of our fathers is Yahweh. No, the God of our fathers is El, but they would have been thinking of the same person that they pulled from the Akkadian Sumerian religion. But if you went textbook with it and said, well, if Enlil is Yahweh, then that would make El Anu. Then that would make Asherah Namu. But because they started doing a merging of El and Yahweh, and that's why they did the merging. That, in my opinion, that is why they did the merging of El and Yahweh, and made Yahweh and El the same, so that he can still be married to Asherah, who was Ninlil, his wife Ninlil, because that's what synchronizing the religions do. They have to make them fit so that it's one and the same. Because when we look at a lot of the biblical stories as they wrote it, Enlil fits the bill for the actions of Yahweh and the actions of El. So this was the syncretism that they did with this religion, even back, back in the 1300s BCE. Now, there is no, where was I going? So when Hezekiah's son takes over the religion, he makes everybody want to come and worship in Jerusalem, but he's having a problem. He wants to get rid of the old religion, right? And he begins the first part of outlawing the idea of Asherah. But we found that there's evidence of Asherah. This was on a clay. This is a superimposed image came off of a clay pot that was found, where it has Yahweh and Asherah. Well, and this one is El and Asherah. There were many other aspects of what Asherah, she was looking like over the different time frames, whether the people around the Egyptian time frame of the 1300s, that's when they would have had it for the Israelites, or we're talking about the Ugaritic time frame, what they found at Lachesh, because Asherah was a goddess of fertility and wheat and all that bullshit. So she was always representing some type of life to each group of people that were that worshiped her. She was seen as that fertility and creation. And of course, all these people in this Mediterranean area would worship and share the same gods and goddesses, just giving them names based on what they were accustomed to calling them. But as we move into one of the evidences of their worship of Asherah is this ancient Israelite temple in northern Israel. The big pillar stone on the left, and then the small pillar stone on the right. The big pillar stone on the left is where the sacrifices and the oils of wheat and all that stuff was for El. On the one on the left would be for his wife Asherah. So although they tried to destroy it, there's even better picture of it, and this has been determined to have been a worship temple. And those two pillars are where they would do their worship for the different deities. There have been other locations that have been found where you have a tall stone and you got the small one. I know it's cracked open a little bit at the top. And they would always, the masculine god would be the taller one, the feminine god would be the smaller one, but they would participate in their worship. I know y'all typed some stuff. Amazing. Oh, that what y'all talking about? Satan is an angel? Satan don't exist in that format. The Satan there's only one part of the Bible that talks about the Satan. So no. And that is in the Job story. And he's walking around earth as if other angels or Satans are doing jobs in other places. But even the Job story demonstrates how they were not a polytheistic. They were not a monotheistic religion. they had demigods and angels or messengers or whatever you want to call them. And this just shows that they would bow down and call them Lord. And although they believed in there was and you got to remember, polytheism doesn't mean that you worship every god in the same sense. There's hierarchies to the thing. So these Israelites, even in their own book, demonstrates that they worship multiple gods. And Asherah, the mother goddess, was always next to her husband. This is why we have these pillars in these ancient Israelite temples demonstrating their worship of both the father god and the mother goddess. So no matter how much you try to argue about it, there's the father god, there's the mother goddess, there's El, and then there's Asherah. Now, what you had that happened under the reign of Hezekiah and his son is they began to relate to Asherah as just a wooden pole. And then they began to say, we got to chop this down. They thought that they're, especially by the time we get to the Babylonian captivity, not even the Persians, when the Persians released them, they had been ruled by the Egyptians. Then they had their freedom for a minute. Then they were ruled by these Assyrians. And then they were ruled by the Babylonians. And then they were ruled by the Greeks as a vassal state. So they believe that their worship of other gods is what's caused them. And so they began to change the religion to fit that Asherah is no longer exists. She's just a pole. Even though their book, when it says in Deuteronomy, Adonai and his Asherah, it is talking about him and his wife, but they try to change that to mean that just a stick, a pole, a cane. Presenting Job 1:6 doesn't negate what I said. In the Semitic language, Satan means adversary, accuser. I give you that. In the Sumerian language, which is a non-Semitic language, it means administrator. Now, who came first in this religion, who were teaching this religion? The Sumerians. We had Sumerians long before we had Israelites. So I understand your point. But it doesn't change the idea that Enlil was the Satan, ruler of earth, administrator of earth, because in the Sumerian story, he becomes the ruler of earth. And that rulership is later challenged by Marduk, and they war over it, and there's a war of the gods. But that's not a point of contention. I don't understand why you, and excuse me, I'm not trying to be rude, why you got your panties up in a bunch about Satan as being a Hebrew word. It's Semitic. Is not Hebrew a Semitic language? I mean, you're not usually boondocks. We are in much alignment. I'm not understanding why you're so caught up on this one word from one group of people when a word can have multiple meanings from other groups of people, or there's transliterations of words. But hey, whatever. You have a fixation on it that I'm not understanding. Anyway, as we continue. So what we see with the Israelite people is that they maintain this system, this pantheistic system, and really, even to this day, neither Hebrew, neither Israelite nor Christian are monotheistic, even though they like to claim that they are, but they're not, because they still are worshiping the idea of the mother, father, goddess. In this goddess Asherah is what many would say becomes the Holy Spirit. Even though people like to look at the fact that the trinities that they look at, the Egyptian trinity of um, Osiris, Isis, and Horus, and merge those two and say that they took the woman out and made the woman into the Holy Spirit, or how they called it the Sophia, the wisdom is the Holy Spirit, and they're taking the woman out of the situation. In truth, it goes back to the teachings that they learned from the Sumerians of having Anu and Namu, and those are the creators of the universe. And then Enlil and Ninlil, who are the creators of Earth, who are the creators of Earth. Of course, like I said earlier, when the Babylonians take over the story, they replace Enlil with Marduk, and Marduk has a wife named Ura or Zerpenetu. And in most of the stories, she's a human, a regular human. But they do have a son named Nabu, who is the god of wisdom and writing. So they've often tried to destroy the white. In multiple times that the Israelites were renegotiating their religion, editing and redacting their religion, they relegated Asherah to just a wooden pole. And this is why we have these images that people artist renditions of them hacking down a pole, because oftentimes feminine deities would be represented by trees, poles, and well, mainly by trees, because trees gave life. They grow branches, they produce fruit. Trees create life. So this is why we get those types of images from them. And like I said, this is the oldest Israelite image that we have of El and Asherah, or Yahweh and Asherah. And actually, there's a t-shirt company that sells that image on a shirt. Appreciate that, Gypsy. So when we look at these stories, one of the things that we can assess from it is that we deconstruct from these religions, because we know that their lineage started with polytheism, that they've been molding and changing this religion from day one based on the mind of man. Them getting rid of the feminine aspect of it is just the patriarchy taking over. Them relegating, because women had to be relegated to property and be dominated over, you got to get rid of Asherah. There must be a bunch of different Holy Spirits, because there are a bunch of different understandings. Most assuredly there are. There are so many different understandings. That's why there are 42,000 different denominations of Christianity. And then there's Islam, and then there's Judaism, and every other ism that's on the planet. Oh, I like that comment. Yeah. And this is something, and most of these deities were created based on things that they saw in their life. And if you've ever seen a placenta, it does look like a tree. And so, and then a tree has the roots that grow down, that spread out, and then it has the branches that go up and spread out. So even the Hermetics look at the idea of as above, so below. The tree is often used in the Norse mythology, which is really a Germanian religion that started before the Norse. that dates further back than the Norse mythology, they had their tree Yggdrasil. I forgot what the tree was called in the original Germanian religion, which is it's weird. We call it a Germanian religion, but these are mostly the areas of France, Germany, Hungary, those areas. Elohim is context of the Hebrew Bible is often used to refer to a singular God. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. And it depends. What you have to do is look at the information around it, the types of verbs and adjectives that are used around it, and then it can be used singularly or it can be used as a plural. So sometimes it can be seen as a plural, but it can be seen as a singular. Like in Job, is plural, definitely plural. In the creation of man, is plural. In the, like Deuteronomy is saying in Genesis 1, is singular. Well, wait a minute. In Genesis 1 is singular. But like I said, in the story of Job, it's plural. And when he talks, yeah, when when he create man, it's plural. I don't know. Do we have a word like that in English? I don't know if we have a word like that in English. I can't think of one in English that could be used in both in plural or singular. But anyway, so we're going to continue. Y'all having all kind of other discussions over there, not getting bogged down in. So how does this benefit us in our discussions? Well, it benefits us that anytime that we are either dealing with it individually or we're talking to people about it or we're defending our position, then having this knowledge of knowing that at one point, prior to 722, that the Israelite people worship both the mother and the father gods, God and goddess. Even afterwards, down through the Babylonian captivity, they still worship both the mother and father goddess. The mother goddess was losing steam, had lost a lot of steam over that 200-year period. And by the time we get to the Persians releasing them, they certainly have lost their worship of the mother goddess for the most part and had relegated her to this Holy Spirit aspect. Y'all are really arguing about Elohim being singular or plural. I don't know who started that conversation. But y'all are into it. So El is the masculine, Eloi is the feminine, Elohim is masculine and feminine together. But there are ways to use Elohim to just mean singular, and there are ways to use it to mean plural. It's kind of like y'all are arguing, but only from one point of view of the usage of the word and how it's been used. And without thinking about the fact that over time, different people are writing this Bible, and they're writing it with different thought processes on multiple gods, singular gods, the Godhead, the masculine and feminine. I mean, the term Elohim was the term El, which is a part of Elohim, was used in El and Asherah, and they had their 70 sons. I'm bringing it back to Asherah. When the Ugaritic ball cycle, they had their 70 sons. These 70 sons would represent the B'nai Elohim. So when Adonai gives the B'nai Elohim their portions, this is pulling from that ball cycle that they pull from the time frame that they were under the influence of the Canaanite religion. And understand, this was the usage of the term when it was Paleo-Hebrew. So you got different time frames where Hebrew words had different connotations to it. Now, so I mean, you can argue it till you're blue in the face. It's up to you guys. I'm not. We have hit the 1 hour mark. Time for a commercial. Since Raph said that my voice was too low, too high pitched on the first commercial break, on the first commercial, let's see it again. Right. This podcast is brought to you by Financially on Fire. Financially on Fire, happening June 1st at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 p.m. Central, will only be an investment of $10. And isn't $10 worth the investment for you to learn how to become financially free? How to increase your credit rating, or if you are in need, reestablish your credit. How to get yourself on a budget that will endear you to be able to create a financial future for yourself and your family. If you are tired and frustrated, or looking at the current modern economy and knowing that there are hard times to come, join us June 1st for Financially on Fire with your host, Coach Renz, and you will also receive his Financial Alchemy Credit Restoration and Credit Health Guide. This is something that you will have in your possession at your leisure, as well as if you are unable to make this seminar, you will be able to review it multiple times as often as you choose. So join us June 1st. The link is in the description. Sign up today as time is running out. All right, that's the commercial. That's the commercial. Yeah, I was freestyling it. I don't write scripts. I would imagine the reason why that they have these 70 sons is because of in the ball cycle with the 70 sons of El and Asherah. That is why then the number 70 becomes important to the Hebrew people. And then they flip that to make it have their own meanings. Oh, don't be kidding now. I had to put a little depth in the voice in order to do that commercial. So I hope y'all sign up for the seminar. It's gonna be fun. I will make finances fun. Trust me. There will also be some business discussion of things you can do in order to increase and get some side hustle going so that you can work on your finances. Y'all are really stuck on this Elohim thing. So what else would everybody else like to talk about? Because in my opinion, they're beating the shit out of a dead horse. Because it is very clear that the term has been used to mean singular and plural. It has been used to mean both. You're talking about a usage of a term for over a 1,000-year time frame. Hell, American English can't do that. If y'all put a bunch of smiley faces on here and I said that, oh man, y'all having a gay old time, what does that mean? What does it mean that y'all are having a gay old time? If it was 19, and let me put that in perspective. If it was 1930, 1940, hell, not even then. Have a yabba dabba do time, a dabba do time. We'll have a gay old time. That was what, 70s, 80s? I forgot the Christmas song that used the term. Exactly, Mason. It means you have fun. Exactly. Now, in the late 80s, so if I said that Macy was gay, in the late 80s, in the 90s, up to today, what does that mean? If I say that Macy was gay. If I said that Boondocks was gay. If I said that Kevin was gay or Dwayne was gay, in today's vernacular, what does it mean? Singular or plural, the gods don't exist. That part. Happy gay became street connotations for homosexuality. I'm asking only because Gypsy put this out there. Gypsy said bisexual. This question is only for the ladies. Nah, everybody can answer this one. Can a man be bisexual? You ever want to be in a cigar lounge and there's men and women in there and you want to start a freaking argument? Ask that question. You got to make sure you know the room, though. You got to make sure you know the room. Can a man be bisexual? Nah, ain't no bi for me. Nope. Oh, he meant to write homosexual. Let me tell y'all. When we owned the cigar lounge in Atlanta, sometimes I would start that argument and I'd be on the other side just to make them jokers mad. Because I'm like, oh, that's not fair. If a man is having sex with both men and women, then he is technically bisexual. But of course, the men and the women, all of them, not hell, he can't. If he take a ping ping in his boom boom, that motherfucker gay. Right? That would be and then I would get them so worked up on that conversation and just laugh my ass off. To me, it was all fun and games. I don't give a damn what you are. As long as you ain't trying to force me to be what you are, we good. Oh, so you saying that I'm gay Lord Kaya? Is that what you're trying to say? In the moments that I would start those arguments, that what you're trying to say? See, the beauty of owning a cigar lounge like the one we had, we set it up where you have conversations. And if I felt the conversation was dry or something, I would purposely start a conversation that would get people heated. And that was one of my go-tos. That was one of my go-tos. But I had to be the one to be on the opposite end, because otherwise I wouldn't really get that much. It's just them against me. Then I'd get like, if Lemon Drop was there, Lemon Drop, she might be like, well, technically, especially since she's in the medical profession. So, it'd be a great argument. Especially when I'm tired of hearing about who the hell is the GOAT. I got tired of that conversation, so I just started other shit. Anyway, back to the subject matter. Well, it ain't really the subject matter. It's what y'all was talking about. Getting hung up on words. Now, I know that Dwayne said, why get hung up on gods or goddesses, multiple gods, plural gods, singular gods? None of them exist, right? You are absolutely right. I sure will. I'll start an argument just for this. If it's boring, you got to have some fun. None of these guys exist, but we can't get hung up on words as to what they mean to us today or what they meant at any time period, because these words will change. They often change. Just like the word gay used to just mean happy. Now it has a sexual connotation to it. The word awful used to mean full of awe. It'll still read as full of awe in a dictionary. But even in that definition, it usually gravitates towards disasters. So now awful doesn't mean full of awe. It means it was a huge disaster. So when you're looking at words, you want to look at what time frame are you looking at the word, from whose perspective of the words you're looking for. When first time I went to England, and this dude asked me if I got a fag, even though I had been through the etiquette class, and they taught us that in the etiquette class, they told us, if you want 2 beers, you do like this. Give me 2 of them. Don't say give me 2 of them like we do in America. Let me get 2 of them. Or you get released somebody's piece. You can't do that. It's this for 2. But yeah, I was still reactionary to it. Right. Virgin used to mean a young woman. And in some cases, virgin means young woman. In other cases, it means somebody who hasn't had sex. And that's why the Greeks misinterpreted that when they did the Septuagint. Right? Now, if the Hebrew wanted to be specific in, Isaiah, then they would have said Bethula instead of Alma. But Alma can mean a young girl, or it can mean a young girl who's never had sex. But Bethula definitely means virgin. So the fact that they use Alma opened up the window for the confusion. Hell yeah. You got to have great conversation that makes people want to come back to your business, but you keep it where nobody gets mad and start fighting though. So that's why when we're talking, I generally give specific time frames so that we can understand the meaning of the things we're talking about from the time frame. That's why when we're talking about Yahweh and El and Asherah, I'm talking about from the time frame around the 1300s to the 700s. During that time frame, Yahweh was the son of El and Asherah. Then after the 700s, Yahweh gets merged with El. He is still married to Asherah, and his children now becomes Mot and Baal. And then after the Babylonian captivity, They get rid of Asherah and no longer worship Baal. They remove Baal from the equation of their worship. So it's a progress of them being more singular in their worship of primarily at one deity, but still being pantheistic in believing that all the other gods still exist. This is why Judaism has never been monotheistic, and that's why Christianity is not monotheistic. So we got to understand time frames, politics during each time frame, culture during each time frame. Oh, Gypsy, thank you for becoming a ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome Gypsy, that I was, to being a member on YouTube of Deconstructing Christianity. Thank you, thank you. I don't know why I feel so busy tonight. Ain't shit happening in my day to make me act this way tonight. And look at Raph over there talking some welcome to the show, welcome to the show. These are some of your other members, Gypsy. Welcome to the show. I really do appreciate the support of members and subscription holders to the channel. It helps keep the channel alive because, yeah, it doesn't happen without that. You say, what's in the cigar? Same thing. So these are the La Angelinas, hand-rolled cigars by my wife, Angelina. If you would like to order some of these, just simply send me an email at masteringyou10@gmail.com and you can receive your order of La Angelina cigars. Thank you, Raph, for donating a membership. Snatch it up, snatch it up. Are cigars good for your health? Yes and no. Cigars create carotene in your system, which is benefit to your system. But if you're inhaling cigars, then no, that's not good for your lungs. The tar in the cigar is not good for you. But it's like anything. Anything done in moderation can be fine. Had its good points and bad points. Anything done in gluttony is not good for you at all. So it has its benefits, but it has its drawbacks, just like anything else. Alcohol, whiskey has its benefits, and then it has its drawbacks. Water has its benefits, then it has its drawbacks. Like there's no nutritional value in water, but then you need water to keep your body hydrated so your blood keeps flowing and everything stays, at the pH levels. You are welcome, Red X. That's about right. Welcome to the insane asylum. Right. Too much oxygen or water is bad for us. Yeah, too much of anything is not good for you. But I appreciate you asking the question instead of being like some of the Christians out there who just like, oh, you're terrible. You smoking cigars and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, motherfucker, you eat red meat, don't you? You eat meat, period. Flesh, period. Shut up. Not saying that you can't eat flesh. But I'd rather smoke cigars than eat flesh. Eating flesh does more damage than smoking cigars. And even though weed has its benefits, I do not like the weed. So no, y'all gonna stop trying to put stuff in my damn cigars. Yep, a lot of them do eat the pork. Now, there are some places where the pigs that they raise is better than the cows that they eat. There's a man in West Virginia, he raises his pigs and they forage and they eat alfalfa and shit like that. And when they looked at the quality of that meat compared to a lot of these ranchers, that his pork was healthier for you than the damn cow that they had. Your uncle is. Look, let me see if I can find this picture. Let me see if I can find this picture. This is my guy here. If I can find this picture. There's my guy. Wait a minute. I got a big bird. He is a superstar in the he was. He's still a superstar in the cigar world. I mean, I gotta tell y'all about this, man. I know we're not talking about health today. Where did it go? God dang it. I hate when I download something and it doesn't show up. What the hell happened to it? That's a JPEG. There it is. But this man was a image. Why is my picture not showing up in my downloads? I know I just saw it in the downloads, but now I don't want to show me. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to show y'all Mr. Richard. Because y'all don't seem to understand Mr. Richard. Mr. Richard at one point was the oldest living World War II veteran. He died at, it will not come up. This is some bullshit. Or I already have it and it's just overriding it. But Mr. Richard was a World War II veteran. So first of all, he had the stress of going through World War II. That in itself is enough. Not only did he survive World War II, but he also had a shot of whiskey every day. He ate his butter pecan ice cream every day. And this man smoked somewhere around 12 plus cigars every day. He had many doctors who told him that he was going to die from smoking all those cigars. He needed to stop smoking all those cigars. But that man lived to be 112. He had the best thought process when it came to life, right? He didn't worry about shit. He didn't worry about nothing. He just lived his life. If he didn't have the money to buy something, he didn't buy it. He didn't replace his televisions and things of that nature because they were, he wanted the latest and the greatest. Nope. He wasn't that kind of person. If his television was working well, he was good. Did he have to have 50-11 TVs in his house? No, he only needed one. Because he said, I can't watch them all at the same time, so there's no point in having it. If his girlfriend wasn't making his life easier or better, she had to go. Mr. Richard didn't put up with no bullshit. Lived just a very simple life. His truck, as long as his truck was running, he had no reason to replace it or anything of that nature. And I know I had pictures of Mr. Richard, but I cannot find it to save my life. Hell, he's up on my wall downstairs. Is he downstairs or is he up here? Is Mr. Richard up here? No, he's downstairs. Because I can't see what that one is. I see that one, I see that one, I see that one. Yeah, he's downstairs. Anyway, for some reason it's not saving where I can bring it up. But say my great grandmother lived to be 108, smoked a pipe daily. Yeah. Oh, I'll have to look that up. There was an orange grove worker that lived to be 140. I gotta find that because according to the Bible, you're only supposed to live to be 120. Hmm. To a certain degree, you're right, Boondocks. But here's the kicker: cigarettes have always had chemicals all in them. Nicotine has always had tar all in it. So although you can't compare it in totality, there's some of these things hadn't changed. They hadn't changed. They had just as many chemicals and shit in. That's why they won that huge ass, uh, 300 million, some crazy number at that time frame, class action suit against the cigarette companies because they have been putting these chemicals in the cigarettes during the time frame of our grandparents and great grandparents. Plus, our grandparents and great grandparents, they suffered through lifestyles that would have been stressful as fuck. My pappy, still a grown ass man, got to call a little white boy sir, and that little boy called him boy. Had to watch where their eyes looked. If they looked across the street, uh, lived in poverty in most cases. Yeah, we may look back and say that the food might have been better because there was less pesticides and the ground was better and everything. And I can attest to that. Georgia peaches used to be great, but now they suck. Right? Um, it would take you 50 peaches today to have the equivalency of the vitamins and minerals in a peach from 1940 from Georgia. That's a damn shame. But the fact remains, uh, medical science is better than it was back then. People die from things that we don't die from now. So it's a balance, is what I would say. And we are more sedentary than our grandparents. That's part of the thing that makes their lives easier and they were able to live longer. And so we need to get our asses up, and that's why gyms were created and parks are created and all that sort of thing. But on average, we live longer than they lived back then. This next generation, though, that's coming up, what is it, Gen Z, or is the millennials? I think the millennials, they say, is the the Gen Z or the millennials. One of them may be the first generation that doesn't outlive their parents, that's some fuckery. I don't know if Mr. Richard took pharmaceuticals, but yes, we live longer now than people lived back in the day. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they trying to kill you. It costs to have the high number of population that we have. The insurance companies are about to lose their shit because all the baby boomers are getting old and dying. And this is one thing you do have to take into consideration is life expectancy. Like when we look back and we see first century and they say that, oh, the life expectancy of somebody was 30 years old. Well, that is because they had incredibly high infant mortality death, incredibly high amounts of women died during childbirth. So those numbers skew the fact that there were still people in first century who lived in their 80s. Man has always had people who were living in their 80s and 90s and 100s, and we always will. But infant mortality and postpartum postpartum death or something like that. Isn't that what it's called? Postpartum death. Mm-hmm. And exactly, I think if you go over and you find one of those tribes that's living in the middle of the Amazon or the North Mediterranean, what is it? Is it North Mediterranean? You know that live and ain't nobody been on. That motherfuckers ain't living forever either. And they live in au natural. Yeah, I think it was Gen Z. They were saying that Gen Z might be the first generation that doesn't outlive their parents. I already told my kids they not outlive me anyway, so and not because they're gonna die early, it's because I'm gonna live so much longer. Hell, postpartum depression. What is it called when women die with complications due to childbirth? That's what I was thinking about. Back in the 30s and 40s, smoking was for socializing, generally more for socializing. By the 50s, it started changing. In the 50s, I'm gonna say it was changed. You had commercials. You can still find commercials where doctors were saying that, I'm Doctor Such and Such, and my preferred cigarette is such and such cigarette. I mean, doctors were literally prescribing cigarettes for people who were going through depressions. Postpartum depression. So postpartum death. I don't know what that's called. What is it called when women die because of birth complications? Oh, maternal mortality. I was way off. Related to pregnancy, birth, or within 6 weeks after birth is called maternal mortality. I was way off. So postpartum depression, maternal death. Got it. Now, we're supposed to be going into health here tonight, but it's true. Well, actually, we had passed that point. We talked about anything. Say that the Maasai reported they had known about malaria and it was carried by mosquitoes. They had practiced exposing members to their tribes who had been affected. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know that, but I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised that, it is not uncommon that indigenous tribes knew how to deal with whatever medical situations were going on in their tribe at the best they could. Use a lot of herbal medications or, inoculations to be able to handle it, or just, not inoculation in the same way of giving somebody a shot, but it's kind of like what I did with my oldest daughter. She did the little pen thing when we moved to America, and she was like allergic to everything. So I went through a process of exposing her to everything so that her immune system would fix it, would adapt to it. Living too long will be torture. Imagine outliving all the people you knew. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Actually, me and Angelina was talking about this a week ago or so. I think when we was driving down for her birthday, driving to the South San Pedro Island. I would live forever. I would have no problems living forever. Yeah, the only bad part about it is that you're going to die. I mean, everybody that you know is going to pass away. But guess what, Rat? You meet new people, and yeah, you know that they're going to die. And eventually, you may not allow yourself to become as close to them as you did in your first early life, in the early parts of your life. But nah, I would choose immortality. How many of you guys would choose immortality? There was a show that did that, the Sandman show, where there was a guy who had chose immortality, and he was like every 100 years they were to meet at this bar, Even when he had a horrible 100 years, that dude still didn't want to die. If I could stay young, even if I can stay at 53, which to me is still young, I would choose immortality. And you are right, Tim. Give me some med beds. Eventually, even if I got older and older and older, eventually the med bed is gonna come out. And when the med bed come out, and I get that new 30-year-old body, or they're able to transfer my consciousness to a 30-year-old body, I'm taking it. You must not watch vampire or immortal TV shows. They all end up depressed and suicidal. That's because man has a natural thing to gravitate towards the negative. You see, this is the problem. See, like if I wrote a vampire movie or a TV show or immortality TV show, oh no, that dude's gonna be happy. That woman's gonna be happy, enjoy it. It's gonna be great. I will not show them becoming depressed because I am a super optimist. But I find that the overwhelming majority of people are not optimists. And even if they are optimists, they're still down close enough to the pessimistic level. So when people write these movies about vampires and immortality, they always write it negatively because they only think about the negative things. To me, I think about all the great shit. I think about all the great shit. I mean, think about all the great technologies that you're going to see come to fruition. The great leaps. Imagine if you had grown up in the medieval times. Yeah, as a black person, it would have been difficult. But just imagine the discovery of a whole new part of the planet was going on. Um, and you got to see the development of those countries. Yes, there's some terrible shit that's happening. But imagine, based on from where we are now, we start to populate underneath the oceans. We start to populate in space stations. We start to populate on other planets. We discover that there's an Earth. Well, we discovered that there's a water-based planet. I think it's like 460 million light years away. But to be here long enough to eventually one day be able to traverse that distance in a reasonable amount of time, the unexplored, I would love it. To see governments rise and governments fall, societies rise, societies fall. Now you can't age with the time because then your body, you just laying there, you ain't doing shit. So I'm with you on that one, Kaya. I gotta stay young. Now this one, Macy, have y'all ever seen the movie The Man from Earth? So The Man from Earth, he talked about a concept about it that made sense. You wouldn't be able to retain all the knowledge that you acquire. Just like right now, the things that I researched, all the information I researched, if you look at all the information that I researched and it was all piled up in this room in order to deconstruct from Christianity, I would say that the overwhelming majority of things that I researched during from 9 years old up to 37 years old, that I have forgotten the majority of that information. So you wouldn't be able to maintain everything that you learn, but you would and should be able to build some wealth. And you're going to need it, especially if you're living, you got to have to change your ID, change your identity a few times. I get it from my parents and my society, my gender, the nation that I grew up in. You get your morality based on your surroundings and your experiences. And then at a certain age, you choose your morality. I give people to about 30. Once you pass 30, your morality should be chosen by you. Oh, he said that's why you take notes. Yeah, you can take notes, but you're relearning, and then you're gonna forget some other stuff. That's a lot. That's a lot. I'm just gonna go with the flow. In the Man from Earth little movie, he was he became a history teacher. He was a history professor most of the time. See, that's because you ain't thinking right, Wrath. You got to think about all the places you can go and live, all the cultures that you can ingratiate yourself into. You know, I got one for you, Wrath. All the women that you'll constantly meet throughout time. Yeah, they're gonna die. Think about all the pum pum you can get, Wrath. Ah, oh my gosh. Your father was Christian. If you're talking to me, no. No, my father wasn't Christian. But I didn't grow up with my father, so and my grandfather wasn't Christian until even when he died, even though he started going to church, he still wasn't really a Christian. All right, I'm gonna shift into what Abdul Malik is talking about. How flawed incest, slavery, theft, and murder are generally shunned behaviors globally. So you just follow what everyone else is doing, right? You didn't listen to what I said. I want you to listen carefully. Okay? Let's listen carefully. Your first levels of morality that you develop is based on your parents, the authoritarians around you, your aunties, uncles, cousins, grandparents, your neighborhood, your community, your schools, your football coaches or whatever you participate in, the country that you were born in. Those all of those things create your morality. If you belong to a religion, they help create your reality, your morality. But even those religions' morality have been changed to fit the culture. When you turn 30, you make up your own damn mind of what your morality is going to be. And that's what I have done. So I hope you're clear on that now. Mm-hmm. Think about it. I'll be able to go to the moon and live on the moon, go to Mars, live on Mars. In 100 years, we'll have colonies. We just won't be living on the earth. We'll be living outside of the earth and underneath the earth. I think that we'll start living, we'll start using living underwater as well. Not like Aquaman or bullshit like that, but just having habitats underneath the waters. Oh, you speaking my language now, Boondock. Scientists have discovered how to regenerate telomeres and reverse aging, but it's not completely perfected yet. Man, as soon as they get to, I'm gonna say level 2 of the trials, I will jump in. I won't do it at level 1. I can't be level 1, but I'll jump in level 2 and 3. I'll jump into the trials on 2 and 3. No, this is why you're gonna be young. You're gonna be like 35 forever. Preferably 37 was great for me, so but 35 forever. 35, 30, the wind blowing, it was like, ah. Oh my gosh. I love when these people come on here. It amazes me. It ain't I love. It amazes me when people come on here. They take the satire parts and take that as seriousness. Man, grow up, my guy. Grow up. Get a life. Get a life. They're making blind mice see again and making them younger for now. Okay. They need to get to the primates. So we can work on the primates. Did you learn the Bible from an agnostic point of view or a believer at open point? Oh, at one point. Why did my brain see open point? Oh, I see why my brain said open point. No, I learned the Bible from the Christian point of views, particularly initially my first, 18 years of life. I learned it from the Baptist point of view. Just saying you sound like a hedonistic perv and you sound like a freaking idiot. That you cannot recognize the difference. And I say idiot because it's not out of ignorance, it's not out of stupidity, because you're taking satire of what Wrath said, because Wrath had said that he wouldn't want to live that long, just eating, shitting, and breathing, or something. He said that would be boring. I had previously talked about having an optimistic viewpoint. So as a joke to Wrath, I mentioned that he'll be able to get all the poom poom because Wrath has been here for a very long time, just like many others, and they understand my satire, my humor, and when I say poom poom and ping ping, they know what the hell I'm talking about. But then you take that and extrapolate that to be a part of my morality, because I was doing a dual conversation about living forever and acknowledging your question. But instead of being mature about it, you take this route. You see, this is why we don't like talking to y'all. Right there. See, even though me and Deuteronomy disagree on things, Deuteronomy understands when things are serious and when things are not. You didn't see Deuteronomy making those same comments that you made. Good gracious. Would you agree that that's where you learn the basic principles, morals, being a Bible reader, so it has its advantages? See, you see how Deuteronomy cleverly took the fact of what I was talking about and arranged it in such a way to make it seem like he was going to make a good point, right? And in most cases, that would be a good point of argument. When I was a Christian, I would have agreed to that. But then when you study sociology and psychology, one of the things you realize, Deuteronomy, is that you have to say, well, how much biblical influence was within my family and how much of that influence was cultural, right? So although the Bible will have certain moralities that did fit the culture, so like both the Bible, do not steal, American culture, don't steal, right? The Bible says don't lie. Yet the culture said that, well, there are white lies and then there are actual lies. And so white lies is okay. Or if you're lying to protect someone, that's okay. So you learn that morality, that depending upon why I'm lying, it is okay to lie. So does my morality really come from the Bible? Or is my morality coming from the Black American culture in the South, particularly in Marietta, Georgia? Because there's a different morality in Marietta, Georgia back then than it was in Southwest DeKalb. It's different. That difference. So those things, I would say, imprinted more morality on me than the Bible, the culture that I grew up in. There were alignments, but the culture had more importance. And then nationhood plays a part as well. There's an American morality and an American culture. So I see what you was trying to do. I see it. And that's a good statement. But there's more leaning towards culture than there is towards the Bible when it comes to your morality. I know I missed some stuff. So let's start again. I don't have any problem starting again. Immortality is a prison sentence for you. Will never be free of the pain of life. I can see that for some people, but Even with the negative things that happen in my life, because I know and understand the law of cause and effect, I recognize that my perception of things is up to me. I can look at something that happens in my life and say, "Oh man, it's so life is just life is just beat me up." And at one point, I did used to think that way at times, but I've come to realize that it is my perception on events that happen in my life, and then how I respond to them instead of reacting to them, determines what my outcomes are going to be. And patience allows for those outcomes to be what I desire for them to be. And so I can clearly say, even with the things that have happened in my life, I've had a great freaking life, and I'll continue to do so. So I don't see it as a prison. I don't see it as a prison at all. I see extending life as something that's glorious. I love life. And as far as I'm concerned, this is the only life you got. You don't get another shot. I don't believe in reincarnations. This existence of you right now is the only you that's ever going to exist. If your consciousness develop into another being, it's still not you. It's not the you that you are, because your experiences can never be repeated. You can never repeat your experiences. So you will never have this time ever again. So even if the reincarnation is right, you're still just not you. And we don't know about a soul and spirits and all that shit. We can't prove it. No one's proved it. So to me, I enjoy the hell out of every moment that I possibly can. One of the saddest things about religion and culture and race and gender and all these labels is that they all create negativity. I don't give in to the ideas of heavens and hells and all that bullshit. You about right, Tim, about 27 minutes. Exactly, Stephanie. Life is what you make it. That's all it is. It's what you make out of it. Sad part about it is most people are so worried about heavens and hells and following some prescription of some book that they never actually live life. They just go around in circles doing the same bullshit. We got we got instruments that can see a molecule. What are you talking about? That's how we know what molecules are, what composes up the molecules, which is atoms. We can see the atom. We can see molecules. We can see electrons and protons and neutrons. And we're just now discovering, in the last like 20, 30 years, discovering the material, where we're investigating the material in between the spaces of the electron, the protons, and the neutrons. So molecules, we can see molecules. We can trying to compare being able to see molecules and to be able to see a God and to know a God and believing it. That's totally off base. That's apples. That ain't even apples and oranges, because at least apples and oranges are both fruits. That's like comparing an apple to a gorilla. Yes, you are absolutely. We agree on that. My perspective of the Bible is low vibration because the Bible is a low vibrational book. The Bible endorses slavery, the mistreatment of women, children, genocide, rape, all that stuff. Yeah, it is a very low vibrational book. So I agree with you. The Bible is such a low vibrational book. Oh, Tim, that's wrong. With instruments, not the same. Then why you even make the comparison? Because we can identify molecules. You cannot identify your soul, you cannot identify where the consciousness comes from is. We cannot identify, your God has never been identified to exist. I don't even know if you believe in a God. Based on your name, I would say I would think that you believe in Allah, but I could be wrong. But even the idea of a soul is created by man. That's a man-made thought. Nobody knows. And your spirit is just your emotional energy. This is funny. He said, wait, y'all. I know I'm not just trying to focus on this one person, but I find this interesting that they always say stuff like this. Here's a thought. Try another revealed scripture. They're out there. I want you to try this. Before I ever tell a person to try something, read something, I first discover what have they read? What have they studied? What information have they already researched before I say, try another revealed scripture? And then you make the statement without pointing out what scripture. Why would you do that? Right? Be straightforward. If I believed in, like I will tell people, read the Hermeticum, read the Kabbalion, read the alchemy, read the Tao, read, yeah. I find the Tao more interesting and more aligned with what we know about life than I find the Bible. But if I'm working with someone one-on-one, I want to know first, what have they read? What have they studied? You agree with me, Marcus? Cool. As do I. Yeah. You're never you again. This is your first time and last time being you. Ooh, y'all been typing. Let me catch up. Let me catch up. What the hell? You can't, all due respect, you can't prove you love your parents, but somehow it's recognized. How is it recognized? It's recognized by the way you treat them. It's recognized by the things you do for them. It's recognized by the emotional attachment that you have for them, and your emotions are measured. It's an internal measurement, but it is measured. And it is also measured by how you treat them. All measurements don't have to be through the same lens. You see, this is why the God argument fails. The God argument fails because when you try to compare it to all these different things, then they're apples and gorillas. They don't match. Not to be a smartass, what's the name of the channel? What's the name of the channel? If this channel was called I Hate Trump, would you expect me to talk about Biden? Would you expect me to talk about the leader of a country that ain't got nothing to do with America? If it's called I Hate Trump, what's the name of the channel? Let's see what somebody else is talking about. Because when you die, your body. Now that is an interesting science that I've paid attention to. They say that when your body dies, other than the waste that it relieves itself of and the water that it relieves itself of, um, that there is something else. There's what is it, like 7 pounds. The body decreases another 7 pounds, and many have speculated that that might be your consciousness or soul, but yet they still don't know what it is. I have found that to be an interesting thing. I love when they say this. Guarantee he would get destroyed if he debated a knowledgeable Christian. Now, if you're talking to me, because they've tried, and now they're afraid to come on. But are you talking to me? Because I put out things for other Christians to come onto the channel, and yet none has ever been so able. Even when ones come on here and they think that they've done something, but the truth of reviewing it, they've done nothing. Try other scriptures of what? The Bible? Why should I need to try other scriptures of the Bible? I should be able to look at any part of the Bible and see the workings of your God. Oh my gosh. You know, they are riding so high on the ambush of Billy Carson, which, if you've been listening to any of my videos for long enough, then you would know that I am 50-50 on Billy Carson. I don't even support half the shit that he talks about. And most of the stuff I talk about actually would go against Billy Carson. But y'all just love to try to throw that one out because you got your one little thing. And by the way, Wes Huff neglected to come on the show. Talking about, oh, well, my schedule is booked through 2026. Now, I think he said 2027. So, you know, Jordan Peterson rejected coming on to the show. So, shh, shh. Why aren't you knowledgeable enough? Big Ring KO. Why aren't you knowledgeable enough? If you believe, this is what I never understand. If you're going to believe in something, then shouldn't you not be knowledgeable enough to defend what you believe in? Make that make sense for me. I'm going to believe in something, but I'm not knowledgeable enough to debate anybody about it. But I'm going to say you should go debate somebody else who's more knowledgeable about it. So why do you believe in something that you don't have enough knowledge about? And then they do this. No, the collection of books have given mistakes. Then what scripture? You notice he never mentioned what scriptures? You see, this is why, Big KO, it is a waste of time to debate people who believe in these things, because they say stuff like that. Prove it, put up the debates you have done. I would love to see it. Dude, I got like 3,000 videos in the chamber. I'm not searching through that just to find something just for you. There's a mistake that people make when they talk to people on their podcast. And I want you guys to really think about this. Although it may appear that the podcaster is there to serve you, and some of them are, some of them have the mindset that they must serve everything, the comments of everything that somebody says. I am not such a person, because I don't give two shits if you agree with me or disagree with me. I did not start this podcast for you to come into agreement for my own self-edification, for me to feel like I'm right. And I feel like I'm right because other people agree. I don't give a shit. I originally started these videos for my children, so that if something happens or whenever I do pass along, my children have the information and they can make the decisions for themselves. I don't owe you a goddamn thing. Now, out of respect, I answer as many questions as I possibly can. Out of respect, those who are members, subscription holders, those who like donate to the channel, I am respectful of that and humbled by that. And so I will give. But to some random Christian or Bible believer who can't argue for themselves, but needs somebody else's shoulders to stand on, man, please, you get like that much respect from me. That much. Because a man who cannot stand on his own 2 feet is not a man. Sorry, but not sorry at the same time. So if you want to go perusing through my lives and perusing through my other videos to find the ones where, oh, and you would also have to peruse through Kevin Wesley's videos. If you go back prior to 2018, you would want to look up Kevin Wesley, Be the Evolution. Prior to 2018, that's when I did a lot of debate shows with him on his channel. Then you're more than welcome. Roll on. But you think I'm going to go out there and oh, let me find this for Big KKO, what a Big Rig KO. Let me go find this. Man, please. See, you have me confused with somebody who needs your approval. And then, see, they always take something. You know how they always claim that we take things out of context? Now, did I say that the people who donate to the channel, that I go and do whatever the hell they want me to do? No. I will post their questions. I will try to answer their questions. Out of respect, I never ask for donations. Oh my gosh. Now, if I'm gonna sell you something, I'm just gonna straight up sell it to you. I don't hide anything. If I want to sell you something, so on June 1st, we are having Financially on Fire, a webinar hosted by Coach Rins. Then I'm just gonna fucking sell it. Straight up. Oh my gosh. And even when people want to coach with me, I used to have these Christians, right? They used to try this little scam. They used to try this scam of, oh, I want to do a coaching session with you. Now, I expressed that coaching sessions is not about me, and it's not about we gonna have this debate during the time frame that you schedule. So don't schedule it if you think that that's what's about to happen. I will hang up on you, and because my coaching sessions is to help people overcome certain situations in their life or to get better in their life. So I don't do, oh, you're gonna buy my time so that we can debate. No, I don't do that. You almost got it right, Kevin. In the description of every video, you'll see the store where you can buy t-shirts. And my wife rolls cigars. If I'm gonna sell you something, I'm gonna fucking sell it. You got time for no bullshit. Oh, please, God is gonna bless you as long as you bless the touch. It sounds like you're asking. You know, that reminds me of the video that I shot yesterday. Was it yesterday that I mentioned it, or was it today? I don't know. It was one of those days. I think it was today. In one of today's video, I mentioned the fact that the thing about that I find interesting about Christian hate is that they get so caught up into their emotions because you pinprick them in their emotions. Sometimes you stab them. And so no matter what you say, the logical brain never kicks in. They didn't hear anything that you said. They just heard their own negativity in their own brain, because they have to do that in order to maintain their cognitive dissonance. The La Angelina cigars. Angelina. She's picky about her name. It's Angelina. I don't want her to beat you up, Kevin. I want the breath we breathe is gifted. What? I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what that means. He's like, I'm just trolling, calm down. See, can't even hear the laughter in my voice. Can't even hear the laughter. That's yeah, y'all are on some kind of wow. Yeah, I'm with you, Boondock. I don't even know what the hell he's talking about. I mean, bro, you gonna have to explain that because I don't even I won't. Okay, I know you meant I want the breath we breathe is gifted. So I guess you're talking about you want the breath that God breathed because God's breath was a gift, which He breathed the soul into man. I'm gonna assume that that's what you mean, but I would rather you express it clearly because I don't like making assumptions if I can possibly not make it. But the whole idea of God giving this breath of life is something that could not fit the timeline for one, since man has been around longer than the so-called Adam and Eve and the Adam and Eve story. Adam and Eve would have to have been created around 6,600 and something. We know that man has been on this planet much, much longer. No, He told me don't hold my breath. God told you not to hold your breath? I don't know. Most of the time, I don't like when people write whole big long paragraphs, but I might need you. Oh, I said I will not hold. I said I will not fault bad. I said I will not. Oh, I will not hold my breath. Fault bad grammar. Okay. Coach Range, when did you say your financial seminar was being held and what was the cost? So, Marcus, it will be held on June 1st. That's this upcoming Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is only $10. And you will get a copy of my book, Financial Alchemy, Credit Restoration, and Credit Program. If you're not able to make that time, you can still be able to go back and you'll still receive the link so that you can go back and watch it because I want people to be able to review it anyway because of the amount of information that's going to be gained on there. Just like the people who were part of the Noah's Flood webinar, they will always have access to that video so that they can go back and review it because of the amount of information that was given. They jump straight into character. Wait, y'all didn't get straight into character. That's dope. I know I put that up there quick. Uh, he talking about, so Boondocks. He said no, he was talking about somebody in the comments. Oh. So the best way to do that is to put the @ and their name, right? And or hit reply under their comment, and it lets us know who you're talking to. That way we won't be confused like we were. I know. You know, Rat, I really, me and my wife, before we came up here, I was like, tonight's going to be interesting because I only have about 30 minutes of material as far as talking about Asherah. It was only about 30 minutes. I was surprised that the Asherah conversation went for about 55 minutes or so. So I was surprised by that. And then, of course, the rest of the show goes how it's going to go. And it definitely went there. I would have loved to kept talking about immortality. Y'all know every now and then I just got to put it up. I just got to put it up every now and then. But while that's up, Abdul did bring up something, and you talk about Christian hate. At no point did I say anything hate-filled. Um, I don't hate Christians. I don't hate your Bible. I don't hate your God. Just because somebody doesn't agree with your God, they agree with your book, it doesn't mean they hate your God. And I don't hate any person. I can meet you at a cigar lounge or at a restaurant or just in a park, and we would have a very friendly conversation as long as you maintained it as a friendly conversation. Other than that, there is no hate, my guy. I generally give everybody an opportunity to see whether or not they can develop a personal relationship. If we can develop a personal relationship, I should say. I don't prejudge people just based on their beliefs. I know talking about immortality is a great thing. Wait. Greetings, Elder, from Germany. Oh, we're about in Germany. Y'all know how much I loved when I lived in Germany. And me and my wife, we was watching House Hunter International. This dude was moving into town right next to the base that I was stationed at. I was all into that show. And then the show before that, it was in Stuttgart. I was loving it. So where about in Germany? I have to know. I have to know. Yes, Boondocks, we know this. This is the thing that I find most laughable, well, most interesting about this podcast. I watch other podcasts and people stay right on the subject matter, the whole goddamn podcast. Stay on the subject matter. On they live, stay right there. I think I'm the only one where we never stay on subject for more than an hour. We never do. That's why sometimes I force it because I'm gonna get all the information, like the one on Monday. That Monday Boondocks was the only time that we stayed on one subject matter the whole damn time. Monday. From Bavaria, Offensburg, Offenburg. It's in the near a big city called Frankfurt and Frankfurt am Main. Now the real Bavaria is down there in Stuttgart, but Frankfurt, all right. Frankfurt, all right. It's no K town. It's not Kaiserslautern, you know. But down in Stuttgart, that's my spot. That's my spot. But Frankfurt was nice. I enjoyed Frankfurt. Do you speak German? No. I used to be able to speak conversational German about 30 years ago. But after leaving Germany, it all started to go away because you never use it. The only way to live forever is to put the corruptible for the incorruptible, and it's only through Christ. Yeah, that's what people believe. That doesn't make it true. It doesn't make it true at all. And there was no eyewitnesses to Jesus. There was no eyewitnesses to the resurrection. There was no eyewitnesses to any aspect of Christianity. Everything is written decades, centuries later. The whole Abrahamic religion is done that way. Almost every religion, pretty much every religion, is that way. There are some denominations that people were alive when that denomination was created, but the basis of every religion, there's no eyewitness, there's no credible evidence, there's zero empirical evidence to it. So that is merely just a belief. Your energy will live forever. Your consciousness, that's debatable. You say an hour on a subject matter is pretty good? Yeah. That's why I'm perfectly fine with it, the fact that it switches up. What is your proof outside the Bible? Because even within the Bible, it is not witnessed by, those are not eyewitnesses. Luke admits that he's not an eyewitness. John is not an eyewitness. Mark and Matthew were names that was given to it in 182 by Irenaeus. It was Justin Martyr called it the wisdom of the apostles, but Justin Martyr, that was 150. but no one can validate that any of those things were written at the time frame of Jesus or by any eyewitness. The Gospels were written anonymously. So there is no eyewitness, and then they contradict one another. For instance, Luke would put the birth of Jesus around 6 BCE, 6 CE, whereas Matthew puts the birth of Jesus somewhere between 12 to 4 BCE. So they lie in contradiction of each other, and they're supposed to be eyewitnesses. Now, if we was debating on the color of someone's shirt, it's not that much of a problem. It was red, it's orange. They're close enough. But a birth with 10 to 12 plus years of difference, and with different events going on in the government at that time frame, and events going on in the government that never happened. You see what I'm saying? There's no eyewitnesses, not a one. And you put those people up there. Those are not eyewitnesses. They've told you that, and you accepted that. But if you go and do the research on it, what you will find is that none of them can conclusively be determined to be eyewitnesses. And most scholars, other than apologists, will tell you that there are zero eyewitnesses to any of the events of Jesus. Say, I gotta be proud because y'all some free thinkers. I am, Raph. I'm so very proud of y'all. So very, very, very proud. So proud. We are so proud of you, Raph. Look, and you know your boy Tim is proud. You know, okay, so I will be making phone calls tomorrow to the hotel that Texas Goddess found. Well, Texas Goddess and my wife, Angelina, both found, and has provided information for, and about our meetup. I can't wait to see Tim and Raph meet each other. That shit's gonna be in. I would just want to sit back and see the brotherly love that happens between those two. But next week, I have a lot more information on the meetup that's going to happen October 31st through November 2nd. Because that's going to be an interesting weekend. I'm going to do my best to keep prices low as possible by having things happen that are cost effective or free. Just remember, the primary thing is not so much us talking about this all the time. The primary thing is us building a tribe, coming together, meeting one another, having a good time with one another. Of course, we will have some conversations. Of course we will. And Raph, no, there will not be a free cigar situation. Before you even type it, stop typing it, Raph. You typing it right now. I can feel it in my spirit that Raph is typing something about free cigars. So stop typing it, Raph. Erase that. Type something else. Yes, Kevin. Field trip. We're going to meet here in San Antonio. And you're right, Jeremy. The only thing that religion proves is that many people are gullible enough to accept what they are told. And then if they find themselves unhappy about that, all they do is shift from one religion to another religion. Most of them just shift to a different denomination within that religion. This is what allows things like the David Koreshes and the Jim Jones to happen, is because people shift into another version of the same religion. Look, if boondocks show up, we're going to have to go way out into the dark region so we can all do some stargazing. If boondocks come, we're going to go do some stargazing. See, this is why I always tell people, don't listen to Sean, Tim, Rad. you know, trauma. Y'all always going somewhere. Y'all always going somewhere you shouldn't be going. Always. Kevin says he's gonna have to fly. Where you coming from? Where you at, Kevin? I'm bringing my what? I'm bringing my LCM one. What the hell? What is that? I don't even know what that is. I have no idea. I have no idea. But we are gonna. I will have a lot more information by Monday on Monday's live for that. Oh, it's a telescope. Okay, so his LCM 114 is a telescope. Mm-hmm. Richmond, Virginia. Don't get mad at me. Richmond, Virginia, home of the factories, because that's all I saw. It's fucking factories. You see nothing else in Richmond, just factory after factory after factory. I just playing. You might like your city. So, cigars gone. I appreciate you guys for being here. It has been an interesting conversation. Um, yeah, we talked about a whole bunch of stuff, but we know that God had a wife named Asherah. The God of the Bible had a wife named Asherah because they pulled it from the Canaanite gods, who pulled it from these Akkadians, who pulled it from the Sumerians. And then we went into a whole bunch of other conversations, as we usually do. So I appreciate you guys always. It was always a great time to be on here. Our lives, again, go Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Look forward to seeing you guys at the next conversation. Now, what else? What else? Yeah, I think that's about it. So for those of you who I will see Sunday, I look forward to seeing you guys on. You'll get the link on Sunday. Sunday, you'll get the link. Sunday morning, you'll get the link and you'll get the book. You'll get the book on Sunday. You'll get the link to Financially on Fire on Sunday, and expect to be on there for 2 to 3 hours. We're not only just going to go over the information that I prepared, but I do want to hear your questions and your questions and things like that, and get into some of your personal things about how we're going to build our finances, build our wealth, restore credit, things that we can do to increase the amount of money that's coming in our pockets. No matter what you believe, finances are an important part of your life. You tag me in a video, Sean, I look for it. So look forward to that on Sunday. So for those who signed up, it's just $10. Appreciate it for signing up for that seminar. Anything else? 369. Kevin, I have a relationship channel called Lorenzo Reed 369, if that's what you're talking about. So that's where I talk about relationships. I do need to start having some lives over there as well about relationships. So that I'll figure that out. I don't know how I'm gonna figure it out, but I'll figure it out. But I thank you guys for being here. And always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. And I'm out.